Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness. Business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramona, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona, and I'm so thrilled to have you join us today. This podcast is dedicated to exploring the idea of doing business and living life with a purpose. We believe that we approach our work and our lives with a servant's heart, we truly can make a difference. And we created this show because we want you motivated, inspired, and educated to make an impact in your world. I'll circle your as that key word. Don't try to change the whole world. Don't be an Elon Musk, Warren Buffett. Let them do that. Let's change our own little worlds and make a difference. Now, I've got a double whammy today, and a whammy in a good way. I've got two incredible women talking about happiness. So while you're listening today, I want you, and definitely when you get done listening to them, you're gonna want to serve today, and you're gonna want to create impact today. So when you get done listening to the show, please jump out and do that. I hear people say, "I'll do it tomorrow," and guess what? 6 months go by. They haven't brought happiness to people, and they haven't served. So listen to the show, take some great notes, and we're going to have a great show. Today's episode is proudly sponsored by incredible partner, Pantheon Alliance. Imagine being part of an exclusive community of high-income, successful business owners and entrepreneurs from very diverse industries. Together, we are building a thought leader platform to impact and change the world. Impact and change. Can we do it with happiness? Well, my next two guests are going to tell you you can absolutely do that. I want to welcome Liz and Dr. Cyrina to the show.
Hey, Steve. Thanks for having us.
Hey, Steve. Thanks for having us.
Liz, I'm going to start with you, and I'm going to ask the same question for you, Dr. Cyrina. What's happiness mean to you?
Happiness is that joyful, light sensation you get in your heart space when you can bring brightness to somebody else's face or experience it yourself. But I think that a lot of happiness for me is constant, just reset, reboot, and move forward. Just like it's not, I think that true sustainable happiness, constant happiness isn't possible. We need to experience the full range of emotions that we are on this planet to experience, but that we do not have to sit in misery and resentment and depression if we have tools and techniques that can pull us out of those to something that feels more joyful, more heart-centered, and happier.
Dr. Cyrina.
Happiness to me is when your heart smiles, when you're like, oh, wow, this brings me joy. And we have to be proactive with that because, yes, sometimes happiness just happens, but we have to introduce things into our day that bring us happiness, to be proactive and to bring more joy in our day, because this life is a gift, even though sometimes it's very challenging, but we can always find something that brings a smile to our face or happiness to our heart.
We can end the show today right now, but we're not gonna, because those are two of the best description. Audience, if you didn't get it, that's how simple happiness can be. But let's talk about people listening going, God, Liz, God, Dr. Cyrina, sounds fantastic, but I'm not happy all the time. Or I've got a situation that's making me unhappy. How do I solve that?
Well, I would say, to be honest with you, we all have situations that are challenging, but we have to be proactive in our day. And for me, and also for Liz, we both incorporate meditation into our day so that we can be more centered and to know how to deal with things. And also, we encourage people to write down things that bring them happiness and introduce that to their day, whether it's doing a 5-minute dance party or allowing themselves to spend time with a friend, have some laughter in their day, sit outside, enjoy the beauty of nature, whatever it is, or go for a hike, whatever brings you happiness, because we're all different. What brings one person happiness and another person is very different. But if you're not proactive in introducing 5 minutes of something that brings you happiness into your day, it's going to be harder to achieve that state. But yes, we all have challenges and we all have different things in our lives that are making us stressed out, but we can allow ourselves to say, okay, I'm going to try to clear my mind, meditate for a second, and come out of that and be more joyful.
And I'll let you go, Liz, in a second, but I want to accentuate what you said. Write down happy. That is such a great point, because you can go, my day sucks, but you know what? I just helped that. Like I told you, I helped two people build a partnership together. We forget about that good stuff. How about you, Liz?
Well, I think, like Cyrina said, like we both start our days with meditation of some sort. So anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. And on the days that I accidentally don't do those, it's notable. And I just actually am in the process of reading a book called, it's called Real Self-Care. And the author, her name is Pooja Lakshman. I might be pronouncing her name incorrectly, but she talks about how, like, when we go on a retreat, or we get away from our daily life, yeah, we'll feel great, in a yoga retreat or do a juice cleanse or whatever else. But then we have to go back into our daily life and face our inner demons, our outer demons, the people that in our lives that maybe push our buttons or trigger us. And so that daily meditation, I find, helps me, because I do it every single day, the way I drink water every day and the way I take my vitamins every day. It builds a muscle of resilience so that I can handle more in my daily life. But also, if I'm wanting to feel better, like I was saying before, like one of the things I'll envision, if you've ever seen The Princess Bride, that movie, and they fall in the sand pit, and then he's Carrie Oles's character is pulling them out on the vine, hand over hand. Sometimes when I'm feeling really low, or even just a little low, I'll start doing that gratitude practice that Cyrina was talking about, just starting with the basics. I can see, I can hear, I can walk. And for other people who can't see or hear, they can walk, or they can talk, or they can, you look at some of these Paralympic athletes and how, I saw an archery contest with a woman who had no arms or legs or something, and she was using her mouth to pull the bowstring. And it's like, there's always something to be thankful for, but it sometimes feels like we have to force ourselves, like that pulling over hand on the vine, like we have to force ourselves to remind ourselves that there's always something to be grateful for. And when we practice that gratitude, we can get back to feeling happier, in a more high frequency energy, and have more to give to others. Like we'll have more energy for practicing that daily self-care, can give us the energy to serve others or to be there for others in moments, and then, smile at somebody at the supermarket that might be the one light of hope they had in their day that day.
True servant's heart. You guys are true powerhouses, because you know what? We forget about that. And they need accountability like you guys are doing for people like, well, you're a happy person, but why have you been sad for 3 days? Here's some tools, and accountability is a big part of this. And that's where you guys come in. I love you guys. And this is why they're on this show, audience, is you're working with the younger generation, helping our next generation to be happy. Either one of you start talking about this program you're doing and the great things that you're doing with it.
Well, I would say, first and foremost, we are very determined to help young children create a strong foundation to navigate life's challenges that are inevitable. We all know that, when children get older and their hormones start kicking in, and then they're exposed to different things, and they maybe make choices that would not be in alignment with whom they are, because they don't have a way to deal with their emotions. Everybody gets angry. Everybody gets frustrated, but we want to support children to say, okay, I am feeling this way. What can I do to help myself become the best version of myself. And we use evidence-based tools to share with them. We use the life cycle of the butterfly so they can associate these tools with the butterfly, which they all learn at a young age, and the metamorphosis of a butterfly and metamorphosizing ourselves from challenges to becoming the best versions of ourselves. So we're very motivated to support children and families to have more fun. And well, Liz can talk about this, a course that we have in the class about being present to catch happiness, because we think that that's really important too, because we get so stressed out in life, we forget to have fun. And maybe Liz, you want to share about the game or about?
Sure. I was just going to back up, Steve, and say that my personal motivation for teaching what I teach and what we teach is being really alarmed at a teen suicide at the age of 14. And now we're hearing that students are attempting to take their own lives at as young as 6, which is super alarming and disturbing. And them not realizing that they have a whole life ahead of them and that they will get on the other side of the challenges, whatever they are facing. And so I started teaching mindfulness in the classroom to teens and tweens, and then went, oh my gosh, we need to start younger. And so now our program for young children called Lessons from the Bright Butterfly is for ages 3 to 6 in the classroom, and ages 3 to 8 at home with families, because we want them to see that, like with the analogy of the butterfly, when a butterfly goes into its chrysalis, it literally becomes goo. And that's kind of what happens to us when we are teenagers, right? Like around 6th, 7th grade, we kind of turn into mush, and then we like have to emerge as a butterfly. And the Be Present to Catch Happiness game, what it does is it has everyone in the classroom or everyone in the family, they throw in those things that do bring them joy. So maybe for one person, it's, they love to go get active and rock climb like my son, or maybe they'd rather play an instrument or sing or play a game or whatever. And we encourage families and in the classroom for them to just put all devices, distractions away, put all those ideas into a jar, and each week, then they choose one activity out of the jar, and everyone is on board to go like, you know what? I don't think rock climbing's my thing, but it's my brother's week to choose the game this week, so I'm going to go do that, or whatever it is. And then everyone's on board with trying that new thing that brings at least one of them happiness, and then everyone gets to experience feeling happier ultimately, right? And so the devices are put away, phones away, and it's all interactive and creating a sense of connection.
Yeah, I love this. And go ahead, Dr. Cyrina.
I was just going to say another thing too is that we tell the children, we're like, you can tell your parents to nourish the inner child, to be silly, to be goofy, because I think we forget to do that sometimes. I'm like, because, when you're with your kids, you can be silly. And we also, I'll share this too. We have daily activities with the Bright Butterfly, and we encourage children to do something every day that brings them happiness, that brings them health, and also to learn something new every day, because this will help them create good habits at a younger age, which is a lot easier to create when we're younger than when we're older, so.
This is so interesting. Now we're diving deep into it. What you guys are doing, business coaches are doing with adults for the last 10 years. You've just taken it to the younger. I love it, because it's obviously worked. There's very successful business coaches. You actually know some with your Program Achieve system. If a parent or a young person's listening and goes, God, I love what you guys are saying, mindfulness, I've got demons. How do I build mindfulness? I know meditation, all that you talked about. How can they build their mindfulness before they see you?
How can they build their mindfulness before they see us?
Yeah, because they're going to come see you if they've got demons. I'm just throwing it out there right now.
I think it's all in the magic of the name of the game. It's be present. And then I would say, like, one of the things I encourage in one of the classes that I teach is to embrace the emotion, give it a name, take away some of its power, right? I'm feeling overwhelmed. I just launched my youngest of 3 children to college yesterday, and got back from dropping her off and came back to the hotel room and cried, because I'm feeling this overwhelming sense of, I've just been fired from my job. as a caretaker of my children for the last 24 years. I just lost my job. Like, yeah, I'll still show up for her, but like, this is it. This is what everyone, I got my kids launched and my husband and I can go travel now. And it's like, well, then why don't I feel ecstatic? Well, because this is a transition, and transitions are incredibly hard as we're going through them. But we know we're going to get on the other side. And crying, I don't know if you know this, Steve, but crying releases something called manganese. When manganese builds up, so I encourage military men to cry, because when you release that manganese, you're releasing something that when it builds up in your system, it increases your cortisol stress hormone and makes it harder to cope with everything, right? So why do we bicker? Why do we argue? Why do we give each other dirty looks when we're in traffic? Because that stress hormone makes it hard to think about anything else. But if we can release it and let it go, we can allow that emotion to fade. So being present to what you're dealing with, giving it a name. I'm feeling overwhelmed because I'm happy for my daughter because she's off to college, but I'm sad for me because I'm going to miss her terribly. And I'm also excited that my husband and I get to go play now, right? But it's this whole roller coaster that I have to ride. And that's just a small example. There's people out there that are dealing with loss, grief, losing their jobs, having to pivot, being trained in something they maybe don't want to do yet, or they're not excited about it yet, or who knows. And it's just going like, this feels stressful. This is causing me anxiety. And then going from there and using some of the tools that Cyrina and I teach that are literally proven by neuroscience to move past it, move through it, move with it, beyond it, and then get back on the other side where you can start to go towards happiness again. I would say.
Transition is such a fantastic word. I love that word because we're always transitioning. We wake up in the morning, there's a transition. You read an email, you get a call. You got to adapt and transition. I love that. Dr. Cyrina, what's your thoughts?
Well, I would say that people in general, we're all different the way we deal with things, and that if they're dealing with demons, that they are allowing themselves to put that part in a certain section. It doesn't have to rule their entire world, and make sure that they're introducing things into their day that are like, okay, I've got control over this. I may not have control over the challenging situation that I'm having. It's part of life. We all have those. But I do have control over certain things, certain relationships. I can invest in a positive relationship because we know with epigenetics now that our environment impacts our physiology. And we want to make sure that we're proactive with the things we do, the people we surround ourselves with, and the energy around us. And if we need to hit the reset button, we could go for 5 minutes outside and go for a walk, or scream into a pillow, or whatever you need to do to help release that frustration, or punch a pill, whatever it is. We're all different, and you need to find something that works for you, but it's not going to work unless you do it. And so, I mean, easier said than done, but you've got to invest in yourself to become the best version of yourself.
Yeah, I love that. You guys are so smart. I love this. Common myths about happiness that are not true out there. Are there any that people need to hear about?
Common myths about
Yeah,
happiness?
about happiness.
Well, I think that many people think, oh, I'll be happy if I've got more money. And money doesn't necessarily bring you happiness. Maybe the things that you can do with money bring you happiness, but you can get creative. In fact, I was just having this conversation the other day because they're like, well, money makes me happy because I get to go out and do things with it. I was like, well, you can be creative. Say, I want to go outside on a beautiful hike. I'm out in nature. Doesn't cost any, I mean, yes, maybe gas to get to hike, but other than that, you can get creative and introduce things into your life that are going to bring you happiness. And I don't think it's necessarily money, even though that could help facilitate more happiness, but it's not. How about you, Liz?
Well, I think just although our name is Sustainable Happiness Together, true sustainable happiness, like constant happiness, is not possible. It's not realistic. So I would just say that our business title is Sustainable Happiness because I have a business called Sustainable 3 and Cyrina has a business called Catch Happiness, and we merge them together. But you need to allow for the dips and then go like I was just saying earlier, like like, so I think that true sustainable happiness is a myth. Like you can't actually sustain it constantly, or you're doing yourself a disservice. But also, like, the goal would be to strive towards happiness more often than not. So you're not wallowing in self-pity or wallowing in sorrow or being judgmental, resentful, overwhelmed, whatever else. And then, like I was saying earlier, like once you've had that big cry and you pick yourself back up and you move towards happiness, can you give that gift to somebody else with a smile, with a gesture? I had two different people on the street try to help me with suitcases. I had these huge suitcases that were empty, but they looked really heavy. Two different total strangers were like, hey, can I help you with that? And I thought, wow, like more of that, please, right? Like just more
Amen.
general random acts of kindness, like will make all of us a lot happier in whatever way that takes shape.
Yeah, servant hearts and helping people support is not lost art. It just doesn't happen enough right now. We need to change that. Let's talk about your book, Dr. Cyrina. I know it's a big part of your program, and Liz is taking it on. Tell us about the book and the mission of the book.
Well, actually, this is a book, C3, Creating Conscious Connections, and it's actually a story about my life. It's an autobiography / science, and I talk about almost dying 3 times in my life. I was struck by lightning when I was 11. I fell off a 21-foot waterfall when I was 25, and I had a really bad bicycle accident when I was 39, coma 18 days, hospital 2.5 months, and went through a huge transition in my life. And when they told my mother she was going to take care of me for the rest of my life, but I went through tons of rehab, went back to work as a pharmacist for 5 years, then had a second brain injury. So I talk about that in the book, but I also talk about the science behind meditation. And that's something I never learned in pharmacy school, because when we meditate, we increase what's called BDNF, your brain derived neurotrophic factor, to help with your brain health, to help with synapses and making, an exercise. I talk about exercise. I talk about mindfulness. I talk about, in general, what happiness in general and what can help bring you happiness. And I talk about resiliency. So there's many things I introduced in my book that are key things with evidence-based tools to help people realize, like, hey, yes, there are challenges in my life, and I've experienced quite a few of them. And when it was really hard, it was very humbling for me, because I had to accept help for everything, because I'm a very independent person. And I literally had to have somebody in the bathroom with me when I was taking a shower. I was like, wow, this is a foreign concept to me, but it was what it was, and I moved through it. So that's what I write about in my book.
Incredible boy. Talk about transition, Liz. There's a transition right there from where you are to today. There are teachers and educators that listen to this show. I know that's a big part. What can they do to get started with the sustainable happiness from the teacher's perspective?
From a teacher's perspective, I come from a long line of teachers. My sister's a teacher here in Chicago, where I am right now, and it's an incredibly hard job being a teacher. Practice that self-care. Take care of yourself first. Model the behavior you'd like to see in your students. And then I would encourage you to try if you're teaching anywhere from pre-K to grade 2, try out our Lessons from the Bright Butterfly, because it easily integrates with existing curricula, and it doesn't take that much class time to integrate, and you will notice a difference in your classroom. You will see calmer, kinder, more considerate students who are performing better on tests and more focused in the classroom. And I've been teaching now at a school. This is my 8th year teaching at the elementary school level, mindfulness, going into the classrooms. And finally, and during this 8th year, the teachers are doing it in the classroom and saying, hey, when we come in from recess and we do a little we practice a little mindfulness, that will ultimately lead to more happiness in the classroom, happier kids, less bullying. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons to try out Lessons in Bright Butterfly. And I mean, that I just recently heard, actually this last week, about, I think Cyrina was the one that told me about this, actually, having the students come in after, it could be after specials or after recess, and start coloring, and maybe even put on some like calm music. You could just put on any kind of YouTube calming sounds and then coloring, they've measured, isn't this right, Cyrina? They've measured like the brain patterns in the children shift quite quickly. And what is
Well,
it?
well, it was actually a guy named, basically a guy who is a physician, he's got his PhD, and he did studies with neuroscience in the brain. And his thing is to coloring in for children. It brings them to be more mindful and present, because after they come back from playfulness or outside, they're more active. And so, yeah, there is science behind it, where they're definitely more present if they color for a few minutes. Coloring in is what he calls
What
it.
a game changer for teacher. Well, you're a teacher, Liz. You know that. Man, if
But
they
it
could just solve that problem, right?
Yeah, but it could be as simple as, all right, everyone, we're going to set a timer for 60 seconds. We're going to do a mindful minute when we transition, right? So I don't know if you know that about when you go through a threshold, you are going through a transition. Have you ever had one of those hereafter moments when you go in another room and you're like, what am I hereafter? Because when you go through a doorway or a threshold, something happens to our brains when we do that. So imagine those little children with their, ripe young brains ready for the molding, coming in the classroom and being like, wait, I was just focusing on running and now I have to think about math. So taking that minute to just, focus on your belly breath for 1 minute can just be a game changer, I think, for how much time teachers have to spend re-regulating their children in the class, the students in the classroom.
God, you know what's so awesome? Adults can do this too. I'm just thinking of ways you just sold me, but taught me something, which is why I like hosting these. The meditation for a few minutes and just closing your eyes, trying to whatever it is. I love it. So adults out there, this is for you as well. Have your mindful minute or mindful 5 minutes. We're getting to the end here. Man, time flew. I knew it would. First, I want to ask you to come back for part 2. There's a lot more we can jump into this. I think you guys, because teachers are like nurses, like doctors, they are people that need to be lifted up, because what you do is so thankless, and you do, Liz. So thank you for what you do. I want to get more and be able to support them. But let's have a little bit of fun. Kind of know I'm a fun guy. I'm going to start you with Dr. Cyrina, and you'll get to hear the question list. You get to think about it. So you have an advantage. So you have a table of 4 reserved at a restaurant. You're, of course, going to sit in chair 1, but the other 3 chairs, dead or alive, who would you invite and why? And what food would you order?
I would invite Oprah Winfrey, because she totally inspires me to become the best version of myself that I can be. I also would invite Mel Robbins, because she is just a amazing, amazing person who is helping the world, and she's real, she's solid, and I just really enjoy listening to her and reading her books. And I then think that I would also invite, I have to think of a gentleman that I think Einstein, because Einstein, one, was brilliant. Two, he saw beyond, I think, just the science of things. It was like about the whole picture. I really think he saw beyond that. So those would be the 3 other people I would want to be at my dinner table with me. And I think I would like to have Thai food. I love Thai food, and it's, can bring up conversations. And yeah, I would say Thai food.
Good meal. Okay, Liz, you got an advantage now, but who are your 3 and what food?
Okay, I did get to cheat a little bit.
That's okay.
I think I would love to gain perspective around what it was like to be Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Because all 3 of those people had incredible courage and incredible calm and inspiration. And like, why stick it out? Why stick it out beyond when it was insufferable or hard or whatever else? And then I've been trying to think what type of food. I would probably want to do something that would involve chopsticks just for the challenge, ramen soup or something, or sushi, just something to where, we all had to really focus on the process of eating and slowing down and enjoying our food. And also chopsticks are just really hard world.
I can't
But
do
I
them.
just think that those three people, the things that they went through to bring about change in the world, and there's so many others. It was hard to narrow it down to only three. But yeah.
Beautiful tables, and of course the teacher's going to do something we have to learn. Of course the teacher's going to do that. That's bred in you. I got to learn how to use my chopsticks. You guys are awesome. I'm just gonna that's the word that comes to mind. There's many more. How can people support you, find you, reach out to you?
Well, depending on what you're looking for, I would recommend starting at our website, because from there you can go to our course. We have an online course collection. You can book us as a speaker for your organization or your team. We've spoken to corporate teams and government agencies, and the YMCA. We're able to provide our services in that way, personally, or in-person, hybrid, or we've got our online course collection. And if you're a teacher with a classroom, the lessons from the Bright Butterfly, if you click on online education from our website, you can go to all of our courses, but our lessons from the Bright Butterfly, that includes a course outline and a workbook and all kinds of activities for the classroom, including coloring pages, by the way. And for all your listeners, if they use the promo or coupon code HEARTFUL, HEARTFULL, they will get 50% off the Catch and Spread Happiness that Cyrina teaches, the Mindful Journey of the Senses that I teach, and the lessons from the Bright Butterfly for families.
Servant's Heart right there. Dr. Cyrina, how can they get your book?
Well, I'm on Amazon, so they can get it off, and it's also on ebook and audiobook as well, because sometimes we're so busy, audiobooks are easier. So it's all on Amazon.
And there's a lot of information, but I'll put it on the show notes, audience. You have access to it. I want to thank you both again. It's been such a pleasure meeting you and getting to know you, and I can't wait for part two. Thank you, and keep rocking and rolling, doing great things.
Thank you, Steve.
For having us.
You bet. You bet. Do me a favor too, on the YouTube channel, comment on it, critique the show for me, or comment about Dr. Cyrina or Liz, what they're doing. And if it's something you need to connect with them, I'll make that connection. It's kind of what I do anyways. But yeah, let us know. Give us feedback. We'd love to hear. They'd love to hear feedback as well, or go on their website and do that as well. Don't forget my TV show, Together We Serve, every Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. Also to me, Dr. Cyrina and Liz, want to thank you so much for watching or listening to this podcast. And we'll see you on the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.